So we see some pins coming up already. I see many pins in Europe, as we expected, but not hoped. That's something different. Yeah, I see more pins popping up. Awesome.
One from India. I hope everybody is succeeding to get into the Menti. We have 35 participants, and at this moment, I think 18 on the Menti. Yeah. So let's wait a few more minutes for people
If you
to
are experiencing challenges, then let us know. We can support you. You can go to menti.com. We are going to ask you other questions. So please join Menti and use the code 54036918. And you can also find it in the chat. Okay, I see more pins coming in.
Okay, I guess we'll continue. I see about 6 persons outside of Europe. I think I recognize Nairobi, maybe Nigeria or something, South Africa, Cape Town, India, and 17 from Europe. So the ones who are outside of Europe, be vocal to counter all those voices from the Netherlands and Europe. Can we get to the next question, Alexander?
Sure. So what is the most important value in a partnership? What is the most important value?
Okay, Mr. Anwar, Pakistan, it's noted. Welcome to this meeting, by the way.
So we see trust, equity, transparency, mutuality, transparency, openness.
Very good, and it's interesting. Trust is still the biggest one, and the biggest one is the one who has the most votes from all of you. So trust is really important, and I think that's very clear. Shall we go to the next one, Alexander? So you're asked to be creative. If a fruit would represent your partnership, what would it be?
So your current partnership, within the partnership that you're working in, if they would resemble a fruit, what would that be? A lot of delicious fruits. Pomegranate, fruit basket. Perhaps we can ask somebody, Gerrit, what do you think?
Yeah. I'm very interested in the fruit basket because that's more than one fruit. Who has submitted the fruit basket? Can you say something?
Yeah. Gerrit, that was me. We were actually contemplating whether it was a fruit basket or a smoothie, because I think it's a lot of different qualities and different characters and different cultures coming together. So for us, it cannot be defined as one single fruit.
Very interesting. Thanks a lot. And we also have the king of fruits, a mango. Who has submitted the king of fruits? Anybody?
I can say something. I put mango, not king of fruits, but I put mango. And I
Please.
think it's because there are many varieties and many different tastes and many different types of sizes. So it's really, and that is also partnerships, different types of partnerships and different contexts. So we need to keep that in mind.
Very good. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Let's move to the next question. Alexander? So, yeah, go ahead, Alexander.
What is the biggest challenge that you encounter in your current strategic partnership? Like if you would name one. or in a partnership.
Very interesting sharings. I think the first one which appeared on my screen and is still in the middle of the screen is communication. Can somebody say something about that? No, communication gap. Anybody who wishes to say something, or maybe it's delicate because your partners are also in the meeting. So if you don't want, don't feel pushed too much. Anyhow, what we see here is a number of things which are really important to manage in your partnerships. The times, the clarity that you need, the agendas which might be open or hidden. I think it's quite recognizable, and a number of things that that always needs careful attention in partnerships. Let's go to the next question. So do you experience power imbalances in your partnership? Yes or no?
Oh, interesting. Everybody's saying yes. No. Oh, no is growing.
I guess we have more than 80% yes, so it could not underscore more the importance of sessions like we have today and all the sessions about shift of power. This is really, striking. So there's work to be done, I would say. Thanks for the answers. Can we go to the next one, Alex? So then what does the power imbalance relate to? And please feel free to enter your answer. We won't put you on the spot to have to elaborate on it. It's about money, it's about decision, financial resources. Yeah.
Decision making and money, yeah, which is
the
coming up.
decision making and money, indeed, they come forward very much. Yeah. Well, let's see. This is something to keep in mind for the sessions to come, Alexander. Yeah.
Definitely.
Thanks a lot for your inputs. Shall we go to the next one? First thing I would change if I could create more equal partnerships is.
So if you would wake up tomorrow and dream big.
Do away with the inner circle. Generational, no more tenders. Yeah. Very good to have this this input from all of you. This, of course, is not a scientific method, but it's very nice to have this snapshot to understand a little bit what do we feel in the room, what is on the table, or what should be on the table, I should say. Yeah, so it's talking about inner circles. Again, a lot about funding, donor influence, control on funding, leadership. And not I, but we, so co-create, very, very nice. So interesting. And possibly a number of these issues might also relate to the cases today. So keep them in the back of your mind when we discuss the cases. Very, very good. Shall we go to the next one? In between, the chat is about the jackfruit. We are learning a lot about jackfruits today, which is also interesting. The next question is whether our partnership that you are working in has a clear ambition that is shared by all members. I think the scores are more on the positive side on this one. So apparently enough has been done in the partnerships with regard to formulating the ambitions that you have together. And that's an important starting point, by the way. So super. Let's go to the next one, Alexander. So do you agree or disagree whether there's clarity about the division of roles in your partnership? Also there we have a score more on the agree than on the disagree side, though a bit less high than the previous one, the ambition. And well, we think also in the cases that we are going to discuss, it is important, of course, to know how the roles are divided, and of course whether everyone is happy with the roles as they are divided. Thanks. Next one. Oh, that one will be at the end of the session. Sorry. Can we stop the Menti for now? I would like to say thanks a lot. As I said, it's just a snapshot, but it gives us a bit of a feeling where we stand. And if I may summarize, one of the conclusions is, okay, ambitions and roles, it's relatively clear, but the power divisions in the partnership is still an issue that keeps us busy. Many people have issues there and are looking for better ways to do that. So that's where we stand as a group right now. And it brings us to the next part of the agenda, which is the successes and failures. The ones who were here last time may remember we gathered a lot of successes and failures simply from you as participants. And we would like to give the opportunity for you to still add a few failures or successes. So Alexander or Gigi, can you explain people how to enter the Miro? And then we might add a few successes and failures to the orange and yellow boxes.
Yes, definitely. So basically what we are aiming to co-create together with this particular learning trajectory around the strategic partnerships is to have one Miro board where we are going to capture all the learnings, the main outcomes, interesting resources, the recommendations. And we have shared a few links before on the Miro board. And Gigi is going to share the link in the chat. So you can click on that link and you will have the authority to enter and edit basically the Miro board. It's a big Miro board and you can walk around it in your own time. You can add resources, thoughts, ideas, even outside the moment of these sessions. But for now, we would like to ask you to take perhaps, let's see, 5 minutes. Let's do 5 minutes, a quick one. So a rapid brainstorm, basically, to ask you to fill in a few successes or brilliant failures. And why? It's for each other, basically, to get a better understanding of what is happening, what are we learning from different alliances, from different partners and organizations. It's for you to have an overview, perhaps, and to feel connected to other alliances and organizations who are experiencing the same. But it's also about building up that data, the database of insights of what is working, what isn't working, or what could be better, in order for all of us, of course, to learn. So if you can take a few minutes to go to the format, share with us your success and brilliant failure. And if you click on the link, you can just scroll to it and then zoom in. You can zoom in with your mouse, or at the right corner of your screen, you can see a plus and a minus, and you can zoom out with a minus or zoom in with a plus. And add, perhaps you can just add one new success and one new brilliant failure. And we will give you, let's give it 4 or 5 minutes.
And if you don't have any access to Miro, you can also share your comments in the chat. Then I can add them to the Miro board. Maybe Alex, you can zoom in a little bit more so that we see the full screen on the successes and failures. That looks better. Yeah.
So the more you zoom in, the bigger the text will become, and the more you can read and fill in. This is the entire overview if you're looking at my the screen that is being shared, and this is the zoomed in. So think about it. A success that you and we can learn from, and a brilliant failure, which is, let's say, something that you encountered, learned from, and will improve.
I see many people going around on the Miro, which is very good. I don't see so many people typing in new successes or failures. Feel free, don't hesitate. It's for our joint learning.
I see the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is typing something. Wilde Ganzen. Giving for Change Alliance, I guess. GFC. See the Pax Alliance is typing something. Take your time and think about a success or a brilliant failure, or both.
I was about to say we like to write about durians more than about successes and failures, but a few are coming on the board. Very good, thanks. Okay, whilst you are adding to the board, could we have 1 or 2 of you just explaining a bit about a new success or failure? Maybe Wilde Ganzen, you added a new one. Can you say something? Just a few words about your success.
Hold on, coming in.
Yes.
Yeah, well, we're very happy. Well, what happened with the Shifted Power Working Group in the previous year, and that we all together came towards this beautiful learning document. But we're also very proud of that. Our partners also chipped in this, and they are also quite vocal about shifted power. So that's also something that we learn from.
Very good, very good. It sounds like real togetherness in the willingness to discuss shifted power and how to deal with it.
Yeah.
Great, great. Well, whilst the board is becoming more and more creative, I just heard Alexander talking about Ministry of Foreign Affairs had one challenge, because it's not only failure, but a challenge also. Could I invite the one who wrote it to just maybe elaborate a bit? It has moved over the screen, so I have to look at it. It's about accountability requirements are heavy, asking a lot of disaggregation. Yeah.
Yeah, that was me.
Okay.
I'm not from the ministry. I'm from Rutgers.
Okay. Yeah. Good.
I think we've seen that in this round of partnerships, the level of detail that's required from the ministry is quite a lot more than previously, and there's more indicators requested. And that it trickles down. So it trickles down to how much we need to ask from our partners for our annual reporting, for example. And so it gives a kind of message around, there's a kind of top-down message that comes with that intrinsically. But at the same time, it also leaves less space within the reporting cycle for kind of more creative and more different ways of gathering knowledge and evidence. So it's not the trickle down effect of that is quite it's bigger than just the numbers.
Yeah, I understand, and it's not the first time that this comes to the fore. So thanks for bringing in this, and let's also see how we can relate to it. In the interest of time, I would like to continue with some successes and failures of last time. After just and I just want to say, if you have more successes and failures, please add them to the board, because it helps us build up really almost a library of successes and failures that we are encountering, and that helps us to get some insight, and we do something with them. And that's the bridge towards the next part of the session. We have taken 3 successes and failures from previous session and asked Simavi and Dorcas and Pax to present these cases today. So what we will do is each of them will give a very brief pitch about the success or failure that they have encountered previously. And then afterwards, we will go into breakout groups where we have 3 groups, and each of the groups will discuss one of the 3 cases. So may I ask Simavi as the first group to present very briefly, maximum 3 minutes, 2 minutes is also good, your case. Simavi, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Gerrit. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Very good. We'd like to talk about the theory of change approach. With the call from the ministry, there was a request for proposals on the theory of change, which we took on. We developed the global theory of change with a global team, the Dutch team, including country partners and inputs, and then followed up that with kind of national level workshops to kind of validate and customize the global theory of change. We were successful in that way, that the ministry valued the proposal, and it was a good quality theory of change. But now, on hindsight, looking back and thinking about kind of looking at it from a shift of power point of view and talking about local leadership, we'd like to talk to you about whether a theory of change approach for the program global level really makes sense. Because is it national level, or is it really at the local community level where change happens, and what influence do they have in defining the change that's needed?
Very good. Thanks for your very clear pitch. So global theory of change was developed, then the countries started to work with it, and does it really work? And how do we include the countries and the local levels even better? Very clear, thanks. You are group 1 for the ones later on who will choose where they will be, what they will be discussing about. Can we go to Dorcas, group 2?
You can?
Nico.
Yes, I'm here, somewhere on your screen. Well, the success as we see it now is that as Dorcas, which is an organization with an office in the Netherlands and 14 offices in 14 different countries, have developed what we call policy guidelines for partnering, localization, and capacity. So I can talk a lot more about what is in those policy guidelines, but it's essentially about partnering, how to partner, with who to partner, and how to decide on partnerships, etc., on localization, how we give shape to localization, and how have we done so in the past, and also capacity. And it is also about the internal strategic partnership relationships within the organization. So as Dorcas, we are not part of a strategic partnership funded by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but internally, we view our cooperation between the office in the Netherlands and the other 14 countries as a strategic partnership. And that is where these policy guidelines have greatly helped us already, but we are not there yet. And that is our challenge, how to move forward from here. In the involvement of the policy guidelines, the whole organization was involved through an extensive and very interactive process. There's also a downside to it. The core group, to be honest, was from people at the office in the Netherlands. And that already points the challenge that we also indicated on the, let's say, on the challenge side of the Miro board. We do have a challenge, but we also have a success, and we want to celebrate the success, but also realize that we are not there yet. And that's why we are here in this meeting to present and to learn from you on this.
Thanks a lot, Nico. And I think a very clear case. And of course, often successes and challenges, they go together. So very intriguing and interesting to be discussed. That was group 2, Dorcas. Can we move on to Pax for Peace for breakout group number 3? Marianne.
Yeah, that's me. Our challenge is quite similar to the two that went before me. So for Pax, I am the program manager of the program of the consortium, or alliance as we call it. And we found it very challenging to reconcile requirements and also our own quality objectives last year during the proposal development, but also last year during the baseline. We want to do it well with being inclusive and participatory. Of course, there were also other factors that played into this last year. It's been mentioned before very articulately by Anna Page, the accountability focus of the MFA, which is very detailed. And sometimes it feels very artificial to have to dissect our programs. There's a conceptual threshold also within among our own staff to be able to do this. There was the time pressure, COVID, and having to do it online. And we also have quite a large program with 13 country programs, and we did this at country level. Something else is that having this consortium, it also adds an extra layer, and in a way it shifts the focus upward rather than downwards, because you're having to focus, at least in the beginning, very much on coordination and governance between the alliance partners. And so from our experience, that makes it even harder for local partners to engage with the alliance and the program as a whole. What are they part of? So the result is we have ended up with good quality country-specific theories of change and strategies, and we're happy with that. But the engagement and ownership of partners in the development process has been very unsatisfactory. Now, also given the accountability pressure, we want to make good use of what we have and of the MEL framework and processes that we have to go through anyway. And so, yeah, my question to you is, how can we use that to benefit local ownership and empower partners?
Very good. Thanks, Marianne. Also very clear and a very challenging case that you bring in. So we'll have 3 cases now. And for the breakout rooms, we go to the Miro, where we have formats in which will guide us or help us in the discussion. And I would like to give the floor to Gigi to make sure that we get into the breakout rooms in the right way. Gigi, can you help us?
Of course. So in a few seconds, I will open the breakout rooms. And basically, it is up to you to decide which one of these 3 cases are interesting for you. So you will have the option to choose the breakout room that you would like to join. And the breakout rooms correspond with the case number. So breakout room 1 corresponds with breakout session and the first presentation that was given by Simafi. Number 2 from Dorcas is breakout group 2. And number 3, Pax for Peace, is breakout room 3. So if you have any challenges to access the breakout rooms, let us know. We're here to help. But if it's fine, I will now open the breakout rooms for everybody, and then you'll have further instructions at the other side.
Thanks, Gigi.
I think we really looked at different elements, whether it's a must-have or whether it's harmful or anything in between. And I think in the discussions, what I realize is that we continue to look at it very much from like a donor requirement or program level requirement that's really useful to have. But for us, as kind of Northern organizations or as a donor, I think a lot of it was around kind of the MEL requirements. It's nice to have, or in an ideal world, it would really define kind of what change we foresee and how we could do it. But then we also all realize that the context everywhere is different and not linear. So whatever we define at the front, how realistic is it and how relevant is it really to put in a lot of time and effort to design that kind of theory of change that will change by tomorrow, pretty much. Huh? And who are we to define that, looking at the so many different contexts we work and different stakeholders we work with. So yeah, I guess it's also where we're coming from. It's mainly kind of us INGOs talking amongst each other. It would be really interesting to get more input from Southern partners, but particularly also from local stakeholders and communities on how they view change. And we're so stuck within our own system and then how we apply that. But having said that, we got a lot of recommendations from all the participants, both for us as consortium members, but also for the ministry. And it's definitely around flexibility, leaving room to kind of learn, adapt along the way. Yeah, maybe we can define what change we foresee, but the road how to get there shouldn't be so prescribed. And I think, yeah, the fine line is that it still is, even though we try to do things differently. So that requires change from both ends. And I think particularly of interest might be to think more about what should we stop doing or do differently, and maybe less kind of know it all and maybe more inquiry in terms of what is needed in country and at the local levels. Yeah, lots of recommendations. Alex was very happy with all the input, so there's enough for you to take forward, I think.
So if Alex is happy, who are we to be unhappy, isn't it? Okay, hey, thanks a lot. So I hear a lot like it's useful for us as donors, but let's be more inquiring and provide space or find ways to also have the input from the Southern partners in the communities. And maybe there might be even very concrete recommendations around this, but this is the core of what you are saying. Eh? Was there one specific, very concrete recommendation that stood out for you?
Ooh.
Now I'm putting you on the spot.
I think what I said, assume less, listen more.
Yeah, okay. Thanks a lot. Yeah, let's go to Nico for presenting for Dorcas. Nico, can you share a few recommendations with us?
Yes. Actually, the one I want to start with is the one that Simavi ended with, is listen. There's one recommendation, it's actually an equation. Listening is learning. So we need to listen more. And with we, in this case, I mean, not just the office in the Netherlands, but all offices that are part of the Dorcas family listen to each other. So that's the first recommendation. Language is also a recommendation. And listen to the words you use. So also listen to yourself. So that I realized that as I was speaking, I heard myself talk, and I thought, okay, the words I use send a certain message, and I was pointed at that by my fellow group members. So that's a recommendation. Listen to the words you use yourself.
Yeah.
And also getting clear on who decides, who defines, who determines, who builds. So the who question came up also in the recommendation. Be aware of the who in the partnership.
Yeah, yeah. And did you also give some more input to who defines, some findings on how to deal with that?
Well, build on what is already there. That's one of the recommendations. So, and that means again by the whole organization. And then from there move from consultation to co-creation. Yeah, that's a movement. That was a recommendation. Make that movement as an organization.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. So that co-creation actually means everybody is equal at the table. Everybody has a stake, and that's different from one is in the lead and consults the others.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. So that's your harvest. Anything, any other very concrete thing, or have we captured it?
Have you managed, looking at the sticky notes, there are many recommendations for civil society. And have you managed to discuss a crucial or a key recommendation for the ministry as well?
We did not, no. That's probably because we don't, yeah, but no.
Yeah, I also like the one complementarity requires diversity. Look for partners that challenge you, because of course we are often within our own bubbles. So very interesting. Yeah, great. Thanks a lot, Nico. And we go to the third group, and unfortunately, Marianne had to leave at the end of the session. Marianne de Haan from Pax for Peace. So she requested me to give you a few of our findings. And we have, this was about the theory of change, which was developed in the Netherlands, or more or less, and then based on that, country-specific theory of changes were made. And well, also the instrument of theory of change was discussed, which is quite complicated, and how to deal with that in the current strategic partnerships. Well, obviously, more time for reflection and analysis was found to be very important. Playing, do experimental things. So you can't change very big things at one go, but you can do small things, experiment, do some innovations, and learn from it, and then innovate. So theory of change is to be seen as a tool, not a goal in itself. And a very important recommendation was also to ask the partners about their preferences. How do they see monitoring, evaluation, and learning? And let's also see that it's a long-term process. I think that was it with regard to recommendations to ourselves as partners in partnerships. And then the recommendation to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs was to really provide time and funding for development of the theory of change, or if you don't want to use that concept, at least a bottom-up conceptualization of what is change actually in this type of partnership that we want to have. So that's the outcome of the third group.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So I also see, I'm also looking at the people who are present and with us and their expertise and backgrounds. And I saw that Margit van Wessel is also with us, a researcher. And And what I'm curious about, and do not want to put you on the spot, Margit, so please choose yourself if you want to reply or not. But what I'm curious about is like the entire discussion around theory of change, and how it is being used and the challenges and opportunities it might bring from a research perspective. Do you have anything to add, perhaps? How are academics using it, or has there research been done perhaps about the effective use of theory of changes, or perhaps the unintended effects of the use of theory of changes? I'm curious.
Yes, thank you, Alexander. There has been some research on theory of change since, you know, it came up after 2010 as, you know, a key tool to work with. Some of the things that came out of that was, you know, the very diverse understandings that people have on theories of change, how complex it is to actually come together towards a common understanding, discussions on what it can actually be used for. One a great expectation of theory of change when it started was that now finally we have something that can help us to work flexibly, engage properly with the complexities involved with change, and then also seeing that in practice it doesn't necessarily get to be used like that. What you see a lot of the time is that it becomes more of a kind of agreement on what to do. Sometimes even, you know, getting the accusation that theory of change is just a stand-in for log frames, really. It's just another contract type thing. Whereas, well, I do believe that if used properly, theory of change can be, I think, helpful and facilitating also an approach that is more bottom-up, doing more justice to how people actually work in reality. But you need to be very clear on what you do and do not want to use it for, and what kind of steps it takes to actually create that flexibility and that reflection and learning, because it will not happen automatically. I mean, there are so many ways, and I think many of us will have seen that, how theory of change is, well, you, of course, you have your annual reflection moment, but theories of change are also used to come to a task division and to have some kind of umbrella that organizes a partnership rather than that you actually test anything really and adapt, right? It's a tweaking here and there maybe, but a lot of the time theory of change are so generically formulated and there's so little that is actually set out to be tested and developed further that it doesn't really happen. But that doesn't mean that it cannot be useful for creating something around which to gather without expecting too much of it. So I would recommend, an open approach, open-minded at what can we use this for and what can we better not use this for, and how high can our expectations actually be. Yeah, so that's how it is with research, what I've seen. Thanks.
Thanks, Margit. And maybe we don't go into this in detail anymore, but you shared in our group that you have a publication which also gives some insight in it. So it might be interesting to share it with partners and with us as participants after this meeting. So thanks a lot for that.
Can I just say something on that, because it's simply in the chat. The link is in the chat. It's online available. It's called The Hidden Life of Theory of Change. Yeah. That was a research project that we did with HIVOS, which was about how to work with theory of change during a program. How do people in the countries actually work with it and want to work with it or not? So that, I think, is also where we are now, right? I mean, trying to work with theory of change. Well, a lot of the criteria and all that are already set.
Thanks a lot. Might be very, very insightful to have a look at that. Just advertising your publication now. Thanks. In the interest of time, I think we have time for one or two remarks or questions from the group. Is there anybody who has heard something or not heard something, or has something that he or she wishes to share with us? Feel free. You may also do it in the chat and we'll pick it up from there. Any remarks from anybody? Have we forgotten something? I can't see everybody raising or not raising hands. So if you have something to share, just come in, unmute yourself. Alexander or Gigi, do you have any observation or something you wish to share?
Well, I think, yeah, we had a very interesting discussion before we moved into the recommendations, basically about understanding how we define and see partners. Because partners can also be seen on, for example, the level of country departments. So those are partners then. But those country departments also function as gatekeepers for all the other organizations that are still sort of struggling to get access to funding resources or other sorts of benefits that could result from it. And this directionality, if you look at it from that perspective, still shows that a lot of reasoning is done from that partnership level. And if partners are not considered in the widest spectrum as they could be, so that includes local partners as well, or maybe even seeing each one of the partners as equal, so that we are all country offices and there's not an international office, that really changes the whole discussion and framing as well around how we are organizing our partnerships. And I thought that was very crucial to the discussion that we had, and also really results in the recommendations that were given.
Sure. Thanks a lot. I think it relates to really the role of every stakeholder in the partnership. There are different layers, different levels, and it reminds us that we need to look at what are the roles, what are the contribution and the added values of all the stakeholders in the partnership. And yeah, that's very useful. Thanks.
And Smriti, maybe you, yeah, because you were also one of the people that really contributed to this discussion.
Yeah, so, and for me, it relates back to power, right? In that chain, because the more layers you have, the more danger there is of power abuse or power misuse, right? And then how do you shift the power to whom? I think that's really, really crucial, because, you know, that's what will define then how you work in complementarity rather than they complement you. So that's something that I've come across a lot, and I'm working with a lot on localization issues. And when I see the language, and it's going back to language, right? When you say, oh, they complement our work, well, are we there to complement them, or are they there to complement us? Whose agenda is it, right?
Yeah.
If we are really thinking about ground up, then we should be complementing what they want to achieve in their society, right? So it's really that change of perspective, and the power then changes with that. And I think we need to really keep an eye on that. Because we can easily get a bit deluded that we are shifting the power when we are not really. Thanks.
Sure. Thanks a lot for that. I think this is a very crucial takeaway. In the interest of time, we have to go to the takeaways, but I think your final remark almost summarizes the core of the matter. Who is complementing who, and whose process of change is it actually? And we should be very mindful of that. And that determines also, if I may take that to the issue of theory of change, etc. How it is defined, but especially who defines it, and who is at the table, and which language do we speak? Does the language relate to the communities, to really acknowledging the role of community organizations, etc. So thanks for that remark. I think we all recognize it, but we need to learn to do it, because it's a matter of power, it's a matter of language that came clearly out of the discussion. And if I may just mention a few notes which I just scribbled down as takeaways, is that it should be really bottom-up processes. we should also take time for this. It's not a one-off thing that we change within a month or so. These are long processes, but we should take time. That's also a recommendation that was given to the ministry. Allow us time to really develop this bottom-up vision on change and how we work. I think also what was mentioned a few times, less is more, or small, not literally small is beautiful, but let's also in change work with small experiments. Let's try out things and realize, as I said, it's long-term processes, but by trying out small things, changing small things, it may help. I think much more was said, but to summarize a few of the things in a few minutes, I think these are some major takeaways. We will further look, and I will also invite you to keep on looking even after this session at the Miro, because the Miro link will remain open and you can always access the Miro link and look at the boards. We will also find a way to deeper reflect on all the information that has been given and see how we can, again, take it forward to next sessions and towards learnings. Yeah, and I think that summarizes the main points of today. Is there anybody, one person who would like to take the floor to say, Gerrit, you have forgotten something that's very important? This is your chance.
Well, I can say we need to go to Mentimeter as well for people to respond.
Good. Oh yeah, of course, we had that question there. Very good, Alexander. So let's go to the Mentimeter, to the final questions there. Can you guide us again, Alexander?
Sure. So you can go to menti.com again. It's in the chat. And enter the code 54036918. Or you can just open up the previous page that you used, and then you will be brought to the question of what is your key takeaway of today? If you have any key takeaways, of course. And please, if you can take some time, it would support your colleagues very much to understand what your key takeaway is, your fellow participants. It will support us very much as an association to understand what you have learned, and also what we need to focus upon as a development association. So we have listen, listening is learning. Organizations have very similar challenges and experiences. A move from Kami, we, us, and Mereka, them, others, to Kita, we together.
Nice.
Very beautiful one. Take time, experiment. Use the adaptive bottom-up potential of the TUC for joint and equitable partnership building. I think it relates to the first and the third case. The process of formulating a TUC should start in the Global South. Agree. In creating more layers, you create more options for power misuse. Yes, very interesting one. Relationship and trust building takes time and should be taken into account in all parts of program planning, implementation, evaluation. Beautiful takeaways. So thanks for those who shared for the takeaways. You can also put them in the chat for us to take into account. And now, in order for us to improve, in order to be adaptive and to continuously learn as well in how to better serve you as our participants, we would like to very briefly, 2 seconds, ask you, what did you like about the session? And then we will have another one. What can we improve? And it's order for us as well to test our own assumptions if we talk about TUCs, and be adaptive, learn from data, and try to improve on the go. So if you can put it in the Mentimeter, menti.com, with the code that is put in the chat, or if you can put it just in the chat, would be also nice. So what did you like? You have the case studies, the breakout rooms, the expertise, the nice setup, the program, the spark in the breakout room. You can also put it in the chat if you want, and then the real life examples. Interaction with others and listening and case study. Okay. Well, thanks for sharing. More is coming in. Felt like a safe space to share ideas. Happy to hear. Should be a safe space, definitely. And yeah, you can always let us know, of course, afterwards as well. And then the last question of today is if you would give us a recommendation as well on how to improve this session or learning around the Strategic Partnership Lab. Suggestions for improvement, or you can put in a suggestion for a theme to focus upon related to facilitation. Perhaps you didn't like the music in the beginning. Or you can put it in the chat as well. Is it possible to have the local partners participate and share as well? More participation from partners in the Global South. Reach out to more participants, yeah, more engagement. I think, yeah, this is a very strong one. Perhaps you can also, it is an important point that we are struggling with, because what we are always trying to do is we're always asking the partners members to invite their partners, right? So we had today 3 partners members who are based in the Netherlands. And we hoped also to see more partners of the partners, the Dutch partners. Yeah.
Sorry, my colleague Susan wants to make a comment around that. Maybe a recommendation for you and the team.
Yeah, and maybe let me word it as a question, because I think it's something, you know, we're all thinking about. Is how do we engage and are more inclusive, and picking up on the comment that someone made about a safe space, and also just managing numbers. I mean, is it a possibility for partos to think about and maybe test the waters to actually like have a session like this with 2 parallel sessions, one with us as INGOs who have a certain role in this whole structure and a certain imagination and perspective on it, and then another parallel session with partners, and then sort of do the same exercise with 2 different groups, and then bring it together for a collective sense making. And then we can start to see, you know, where the middle ground is, where the big differences are. And it's a safe space for everyone to air it. It helps keep it a bit flatter. And then we have a space where it all comes together. And that might be one way of trying to do it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Like it. Yeah. Thanks. Very good recommendation. I like it very much. Definitely good to learn from us.
I think, Alex, just for me, also practically, I mean, we need to think of time zones if we plan these meetings. I mean, I'm not going to invite partners if it's really at the end of the day beyond their working hours. I mean, we have to ask them too often already that they adhere to our schedule rather than doing it the other way around. So I think that we really need to be sensitive around that as well.
Yeah, and I think also considerations too around just different ways people like to learn and engage and have conversations, and it's not necessarily the same, especially between certain regions where some are more hierarchical and flatter, just different cultural favored ways of working. And so that by doing it like this, that could also be taken into account to facilitate participation. And I also really like this idea. I think it'd be really neat for us to start learning and experimenting with how we make this collective sense making. You know, as opposed to again us being the knowers and interpreting and analyzing, but really putting that, doing that collectively.
I think, if I may, the point is very, very clear and very right. I think when we talk about shift of power and it's only a Dutch discussion, that shouldn't be the case. So let's do everything we can, and very, very good ideas. I also saw the comment by Jan Appelo about let it not be, how did he say it? A compliance request. So let's be mindful. But of course, I think this subject cannot be discussed here only. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I would like, just also in the interest of time, because it's hugely interesting, but it's also after 5, and we had promised we would stop at 5.
So a final point, perhaps, Gerrit.
Yeah.
Smruti, you wanted to say something, right?
Yeah. So I work a lot with local partners and doing a lot of kind of conversations with them around these issues of localization and power and everything. And one thing they systematically say is, you know, we like to take part in these conversations, but it's also our time, and you're all paid as, you know, yeah, full-time staff and whatever, and we have to take the time out of our time, right? And then the second part, and this one we really have to take seriously, is that the data that it uses to be online and being on Zoom for an hour and a half or whatever. So it's also about how do you resource that when you get partners to join, because that costs them, right? So these are some things that are very easy for us, right? We are so accessible in terms of internet, but when I'm talking to people in Philippines and Liberia and other places, for them, it's expensive. So I think just to think about it when you do engage, that there is some kind of compensation for them, and that whatever we do adds value, so they get something from it, because otherwise they're just coming there, we're kind of downloading them in some way, and then nothing happens for them. So it's about also what will they get from it. Thanks.
Yeah, very good point. Perhaps quick reaction as well. Fully agreeing, definitely something to take into account. I think there are 2 lines. One line is how do we bring our international partners in these conversations, taking each other's contexts, opportunities and challenges into account. And one way that we are currently trying to do so is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is also going to embark on a learning and research program in the countries. So one of the intentions is to tap into local knowledge systems, and then to use that data also to bring it to the partners, which is more about like the Dutch civil society focused discussions, and to create interlinkages there. That's only one way of how we're trying to mitigate it. The other level, I think it's on how do we organize these types of sessions. We have the monthly strategic partnership lab sessions. It should be safe and accessible to everyone. So a lot of recommendations that we are going to take into account, and for the March session, try to adapt basically, and explore how we can include this feedback as well already, and learning on the go, and try to see how we can become also more inclusive within our learning trajectory. So at least from my side, thank you very much. It was very enlightening, and I think these types of coming togethers, these are very crucial in order for us to collectively make the next steps and try to do things differently. So I would like to thank you very much from Parto's perspective, at least, and I hope to see you in one of the upcoming sessions.
Thanks, Alexander. That brings us to the end of this session. We had said the closure words are for you, Alexander. So I guess these were your closing remarks. And thanks a lot to Partos for organizing this, for all of you to participate, because we do it together. We have to do it together, and hope to see you again in a month's time.